Lyman has been laid to rest. To return to the earth from whence he came. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Excuse me. I'm sorry to trouble you. Could you tell me where I might find Mr. Lyman's wife?
What exactly do you want with her?
Charlie? Charlie Chapman?
What's the matter? It's not so odd for a private detective to be seen here, is it?
Let go of my arm!
Sorry, Mrs. Lyman asked me to protect her, and that's what I'm doing.
Protect her?
Right. I'm her personal bodyguard, keeping her safe from people like you.
Hey, hold on. I'm writing a report on the cause of Mr. Lyman's death.
Taichi, you're like a vulture circling around. Can't you see she's devastated about her beloved husband? Look at her. She can't stop weeping. I cannot let you cause further hurt to that beautiful woman's heart. You will not speak to her. Even if you are one of my childhood friends. And just what do you think you're looking at, Keaton?
Nothing at all.
Good. Time for you to go, then.
But Charlie, listen.
Look, I told you to get out of here. Remember, you've now been given fair warning not to come near her. Besides, there's always trouble when you show up snooping around.
The victim's name is Edmund Lyman. He was a businessman. His body was found in the garden outside of Eric Linden's quarters. The victim received a stab wound to the back with pruning shears that we believe belonged to Eric. Here is a picture of him. He was hired to look after the rose garden at the Lyman mansion, and he disappeared after the murder. The police consider this gardener to be the prime suspect. In the meantime, they've begun a search for him.
I can't believe it. My husband was actually murdered by someone we knew. Edmund was the light of my life. How can I ever live without him?
My lady, if there's anything I can do...
Oh no!
What's wrong?
The brakes aren't working! We're not stopping!
Watch out!
Hang on!
Wow, no wonder they call it the Mansion of Roses. The Spanish Beauty Rose. So extraordinary.
How did you sneak in here?
Are you all right? I heard that you were in a car accident.
One thing I'll say for sure, you have good ears. Unfortunately for you, I'm obviously still alive. Now it's time for you to shove off.
They say the brake fluid had been emptied out.
I believe I told you to mind your own business, Keaton.
Do you suspect that Eric had anything to do with it?
The man is raving mad. First it was the husband, and now he's after Mrs. Lyman. The truth is, he fell in love with her, and got it in his head that he was going to win her over, even though he knew that she was in love with her husband. When Mr. Lyman found out about the gardener's interest, he fired him. But Eric flew into a rage and murdered Lyman. Now he's after her. It's rather difficult to deal sensibly with a man who's in love. What is it?
Nothing. But don't you agree that the security around here is a bit weak?
Don't be silly. The police have this place under surveillance. And more than anything, I'm here for her.
But as you can see for yourself, I was able to sneak in easily.
You're about the only one who can just walk right in without attracting any attention, Keaton.
I would suggest you consider tightening up security. There's already been an act of sabotage and...
Get out now! You have collected all the information you need for your report. Now go! Flora will be protected no matter what the cost. I won't let Keaton steal the glory again. Not this time. I only came here to ask if you were all right.
Yes, I am very grateful that you're protecting me.
But it's too dangerous out here. I strongly advise you to keep a low profile for a little while.
Yes, but when my husband was alive, he worked hard to create this magnificent garden. Now that he's no longer here to take care of it, I have to do it for him.
Your husband was content sharing his life with you.
Huh?
Do you know the significance of the white rose? Trust, that's what it means.
Huh.
Think of me in the same way. I want you to trust me to protect you.
So then, Mr. Lyman was discovered at this spot, was he?
Yes, he was simply lying there, face down, over the roses.
Oh, is that so?
To think a murder actually took place right here, I find it quite terrifying.
These roses are known as sterling silvers, aren't they?
Well, yes, that's right.
At the moment, we don't have any clues as to Lyndon's whereabouts. But I'm sure that we'll track him down soon enough.
Left-handed pruning shears. I take it Eric is left-handed.
Yeah.
Did you find his fingerprints anywhere?
Actually, we didn't find any at the scene. Not a single one.
Not a single one?
Well, I assume he must have wiped them off after committing the crime. Pictures of the autopsy. Is anything wrong?
He's got so many scratches all over him.
Of course he does. I mean, he fell into a rose bush.
True.
Flora. What happened here? Mrs. Lyman? He's dead. Poisoned. Where did you get this milk from?
It was delivered this morning, as it always is.
What? Are you sure?
It was Eric. Eric must have done this.
It's gonna be fine. Just remain calm.
I'm scared. So scared. I think I may be next.
I promise. I will be right here to protect you, Flora.
What a beautiful rose. It's the same one you placed on your husband's coffin. I'm very sorry about what happened to your dog.
Who are you?
Hey, Taichi! Trying to sneak in here again? Don't worry, Mrs. Lyman. This man's an insurance investigator by the name of Taichi Keaton, an old friend. As you can see, he's developed a nasty habit of eavesdropping.
This is a new variety. It's such a beautiful flower. What do you call it?
It doesn't have a name. It was difficult to achieve that particular color. It took 10 years for my husband and Eric the gardener before they achieved successful propagation.
What?
They were planning on registering it, but since this tragedy, it's remained unnamed.
Really, what a shame. You know, my grandmother also has a rose garden at her place, though it's a small one. So I know it's very difficult to take care of roses.
Yes, it certainly is. In the wintertime, there's fertilizing, pruning, and grafting. In the spring, you must exterminate pests and provide extra nutrition when the flowers bloom.
But if you give roses too much plant food, you run the risk of spoiling their color.
Yes, you know a great deal about this. It is a difficult work and full-time commitment that makes growing them so satisfying.
Yes, growing roses is certainly satisfying, that's a fact. My mother. Oh, yes, my mother. She enjoys gardening. But it's roses she loves most of all.
Excuse me. The earth here has been freshly turned over, hasn't it?
That's right. A different type altogether was blooming there, but we dug them up for the new roses.
I wish I'd seen them.
I have to say, you aren't being very sensitive.
I was told by the police that the poison Eric used was a common chemical.
No matter what you know, don't say things to upset her.
I apologize for that, but she did cheer up when we started talking about the roses.
Delicious, isn't it? I was asking what you think about the cherry pie.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Mrs. Lyman made it.
Really, that's quite something.
It tastes just like the pie my mother makes.
Huh?
I never thought I would ever come across a woman who could cook as well as my mother. Taichi, don't get in the way.
When have I ever done that?
Never you mind. Finish eating and leave. We're busy with the Linden business.
Now that you've brought up the topic of Eric, I've been trying to figure out where the murderer could have killed Lyman. Mr. Lyman's body was discovered in the rose bed where they planted the sterling silvers, the variety with the fewest thorns. However, if you recall, there were numerous abrasions which covered his entire face.
Are you suggesting that Eric murdered the husband someplace else and moved him over to the rose bush?
I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, come on now. Eric did away with Mr. Lyman in the rose bushes and then vanished. You went over the police report yourself.
Yes, but...
What are you on about? I haven't time to seriously entertain any of your preposterous theories. I see. You're off to your aunt's place in France.
I decided it would be best to take your advice and lay low for a while.
That's wise. It's too dangerous here.
Although it is hard for me to leave the roses.
It's hard for me too.
What?
To be perfectly frank, I'll miss you, Flora.
Oh, Charlie.
That hurt. So this is Eric's garden shed. Chemicals. This is the same one that was mixed with the dog's milk. What's this?
They've already investigated those bloodstains. They're Eric's.
Eric's blood?
He may have cut himself or some such thing while he was pruning the roses.
But wouldn't you agree there's just a little too much blood for that?
Well, who knows? I shouldn't have to remind you that it was Mr. Lyman who was the murder victim, not Eric. Come on now, Taichi. What are you saying? Eric's already been murdered? How?
I thought it was unusual, going to the trouble of wiping prints off the pruning shears. Why would the murderer bother to do that when there was so much incriminating evidence everywhere else?
So I gather you're suggesting that someone else had their prints on the pruning shears.
And created that bloodstain.
Then would you like to tell me who had the motive and opportunity to tamper with the brakes and do away with the dog? You never cease to amuse me with those theories of yours.
Listen, Charlie, you can't deny...
No! Enough!
Goodness, Charlie. What's going on with the two of you? Having a few words?
No. It's just that he had some ridiculous little theory, Flora, that's all.
I see. Well, I'll be going now. If it's not too much trouble, could I ask you to take me to the airport?
The airport?
She's going to stay for a while at her aunt's place in France. Come on, let's go.
Hold on a minute. This new rose, did you happen to notice that the flower petals have changed color? I guess maybe you gave it too much fertilizer.
I've had quite enough of this. Can't you see she has a plane to catch?
I think you should cancel your flight, Mrs. Lyman.
Taichi!
Until the police have had a chance to do a little digging. So I was right then. It was here where you buried Eric's body.
What? What do you mean?
You said there used to be a different type of rose blooming here. This is where you murdered your husband. You moved the body to Eric's garden, which explains the abrasions on his face. The bushes that were dug up had thorns. You killed Eric inside the garden shed and then buried him here.
Stop it, Taichi!
You were also the one who tampered with the brakes and poisoned the dog, trying to give us the impression that Eric was alive. Also that you could blame him for your crimes.
That's quite enough! Stop!
You see, I really was in love with Eric. I was happy being together with him and taking care of the roses. It was wonderful to be held in his arms. But my husband found out about us. He was livid. I was afraid he would kill me, so I thought when I told Eric about it, he'd run away with me. I thought he'd understand why I did it and would help me. But instead, he insisted I turn myself in or he'd go to the police. Eric wasn't in love with me!
Don't say any more, Flora.
Eric wasn't being cruel. He did love you from the bottom of his heart. And that's why he wanted you to turn yourself in.
What would you know about his feelings for me? What would you know about them?
These newest roses, Eric was planning to register this variety that he helped to create. He was going to call it Graceful Flora.
Graceful Flora, right.
Eric. Oh, Eric. Eric!
Charlie,
Like I said, good things never happen when you're around. When predators attack, they first stalk their prey to find any weakness, and then go for the jugular. The victim can only watch helplessly as the aggressor moves in for the slaughter. However, it's up to Keaton to make the prey turn and face his predator, and to use the honesty of a scholar to outwit a tyrant. Next time, Miscalculation of a Faker.